Hi, Hi, Terry. How are you? I'm glad you're here. I hope my email went out today. This is a class that I had trouble with last week. Hi, Stevie. Did my email come out, Stevie? I want to know if I think it was last week that it didn't. So anyway, how is everyone doing? It did. Okay, good. Yep, 4th of July. Off next week, and I think I'm going to be off to the mountains to do some work, and looking forward to that. Also Vegas, going to Vegas on Sunday. Not my favorite place, but we have guests in from out of town, so it'd be nice to take them because everybody wants to go to Vegas if they come to America, right? Ay. All right. So ladies, what is going on with you today? Anything in particular? This is the last class of this session, so definitely going to do the 12 postures, not miss any of them this time. Coming at it from a different angle, and let's see. Definitely summer is here, that's for sure. All right, so if nothing in particular, why don't I get started? Because I want to do the 12 poses. So for anyone watching this, because this is the class that gets replayed the most often, is the yoga therapy for osteoporosis. This will be the only YouTube class, at least for the summer of 2023. Not sure what will happen in the fall, but I'm going to go back live to teaching. So you will have to sign up through Torrance Memorial if you want to attend those other classes. And that information is on my website, debbierobinson.com. Let me just type that in here. So, did you sign up already, Stevie? So that's the only way that anyone will be able to take those classes, because they are offered through Torrance Memorial and they do all the billing and handling of those classes. But this will always be available, or at least for now anyway. We'll see what happens. So yeah, you did. Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm going to begin then, so we could start to do our beginning and our warm up and all of that. So let's get ourselves ready to practice. So today's practice will include, at a minimum, 12 postures from the first series that Dr. Fishman put together to prove that yoga can increase bone density, because the DEXA scan is what's going to give us a density factor. What it also does is it improves flexibility, range of motion, balance, confidence, and all the other amazing benefits that can happen that we can't always quantify those or test those in a double-blind randomized type study, right? So it's hard to actually test the increased flexibility that came into your ankle joint, or the strength in your foot, or the increase in the ability to balance on your foot in your body. So there might be some kind of diagnostic criteria for that, but not so easy to quantify every single aspect of what this practice does for healthy aging and healthy bones. So we just know, for those of us that do it all the time, that it is tremendous. To me, it is the answer for keeping yourself as healthy, functional, and strong in your body as you age. So today we're going to use the 12 postures that were used the most, studied the most in the first series, that proved the increase in bone density on this DEXA scan almost by one whole standard deviation. So if you were at negative 2.9, you could go down to 1.9 or 2.0. That's how significant the increase in bone density was for some of the participants over a few years. So that's pretty substantial. And I think we'll all take that, especially if that's something we could do every 2 years. So do your best. The most important thing is this: you need to bend deeply. You need to demand a lot. Bones are strong substances, and muscles that are moving the bones and pulling on the bones are also important here. The quality, or the what's the word that my physical therapists use? Because you can have a muscle, but then you can have a muscle that's like more efficient. So there's a word for it. Anyway, so stronger muscles are going to lead to stronger bones. So whatever it is you do, I'd rather you do it stronger for a shorter period of time than trying to stand something for 30 seconds and not being able to fully give it your all. So contract when you need to contract, bend deeply when you need to bend deeply, pull and push as strong as possible in your joints, in your bones, in your muscles, because that's what's going to make them stronger. So doing your best. We're going to begin the practice to be very body aware so that you can demand more in those circumstances safely. Because it's not just about being strong and effective, it's about doing it as safely as possible. Because we're stretching ligaments, we're stretching soft tissue, muscles, we're pulling on bones, and we want to make sure that we do that effectively and efficiently and safely. All right. So for the practice, you will need a strap and you will need a block or something very similar to these. I actually think it's worth the investment if you don't have them already to get it. And even if you try to use a blanket instead of this, it's not the same density that you're going to be pushing up against to create the muscular stimulation that you would if you were pushing up a harder surface. Not very expensive to get a block, so try to get a block, get a strap. And then a blanket is always something that comes in handy, and you can even have a couple of those because that can make up for some of the other things you don't have access to. So the blanket and the strap and the block are the necessities. And then coming into a supported back bend today, actually, I'm not going to use my egg. So I was thinking of using the egg, but I'm not going to use the egg. So for today, we're going to come into a supported back bend. And I'm going to put this across the heart area of my body. So it's going to go straight across here, and we're going to lie down on the ground on this. The bigger the fold, the bigger the opening in the thoracic spine, really important part of the spine to affect if you have osteoporosis. We want to really stretch, open the front of the spine. So folding this blanket into whatever's appropriate for you. I may do a 4-fold. Or close to that, which means it's a kind of a higher fold. You could even do rolling it and then maybe getting it to be even bigger. And also it really depends on your blanket and how big is your blanket, how thick is your blanket. That's going to determine this as well. So I'm going to put my head down on the ground without anything because I probably could. For some of you, this will be a little bit too intense because this is the part of the spine that is the least flexible. And depending on whether or not you have postural issues, roundness in your spine, it may be too intense for you. The key is it's right under the heart. It's not any higher. Keep your knees bent and then bring your head onto the floor and bring your arms out to the side. So supporting a back bend with props, doing this efficiently and effectively. When you come here, close your eyes at first, noticing where tension may develop. And the two areas to pay attention to are the low back or the neck, because those are the curves above and below the one you're manipulating with the prop. So notice if you feel any tension there. The way to release that tension is walk your feet a little closer to your body. And that'll help to give you a little bit more freedom in your lower lumbar spine. And then bring your awareness to your head, a little side to side action to loosen up the upper back and neck. And then bring yourself to center. Close your eyes. Try to come into a pretty big stretch here. So if you're able to take your arms up overhead, hands far away from your body, try that so you feel a stretch coming into the underarm pits, shoulders, chest. And notice when you do that, do you get more tension in the low back? And if you do, try to tilt your pelvis back so that the top of the pelvis touches the ground, and then activate the lower ribs, pushing the lower ribs towards the ground. So you're activating your core to support the lumbar. And then noticing what you notice in your body. If you're able to take your legs straight once you come into this, you could try that. Noticing what feels appropriate for your body in this position. And the mouth is closed, breathing in and out through the nose. Let's pay attention to the torso, warming at the torso, warming at the spine. Let's do a 3-part breath. Bringing the breath into the lower lobes of the lungs, then the middle, then the upper. And on the exhale, exhaling from the lower, middle, and upper. The diaphragm, which is the primary breathing muscle, sits underneath the lower ribs. Let the diaphragm actively draw the breath in and press the breath out of your body. So we inhale to the lower and we exhale from the lower, letting the diaphragm do all the work. Mouth is closed, wiggle the jaw back and forth, side to side. And then let your lips touch, let the back teeth be separated. We're going to focus here on breath and on the lungs. So let your awareness come to your body. Notice your legs, your pelvis, your torso, your head, and your arms, as if you could see yourself. Mouth is closed. Take an exhale. Inhale to the upper chest. And start to inhale really as deep as you can so that you actually stretch and soften and loosen up the ribs and the breathing muscles. Breathe really high. And then move the breath now down to the lower ribs, to the middle of your torso. And breathe, couple of breaths there, warm up this part. Breathe forward, to the sides, and back. And then bring your awareness to the lower ribs, to the belly. Breathe in and down. And we're going to put all this together, bringing in the breath to the lower, the middle, and the upper lungs. Mouth is closed. Take a big exhale. Inhale to the belly, lower ribs, chest. Exhale from the belly, lower ribs, chest. Inhale, belly, lower ribs, chest. Exhale, belly, lower ribs, chest. Inhale, belly, lower ribs, chest. Exhale, belly, lower ribs, chest. Continue on your own. Breathing in a 3-part breath. Let your mind go to where you're breathing. belly, lower ribs, and chest. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Let your mind be in your body. Warm up your deep insides. Warm up your spine. Bring energy into your body with breath. And whatever breath you're on, finish this breath. Take 3 more breaths just like this. And then when you finish your last breath, let your body breathe itself. With this prop underneath your chest, see if you can move in ways that you feel even more stretch. Bringing the arms overhead could be that for you. Taking the legs straight, maybe. Doing something to create a stretch, feeling the stretch, especially in the torso, especially around the lower ribs where the core muscles attach, muscles that support your spine. And the more you can open up the front of your body, the more length you can bring into the front of your spine, keeps the spine healthy. And then stretching the spine so we can add a little bit more work. If you're able to clasp your hands and then rotate your palms overhead, reaching long and away from you. If your legs are straight, start to bend your knees. Bring your legs into a bent knee position and take your feet a little wider than your body, not quite as wide as the mat. Bring your arms onto the ground, palms are up towards the sky. And then do a little bit of side to side here. Keep the soles of the feet on the ground. So you have the prop behind your heart. That's going to isolate and stabilize the ribs. So as you move your knees side to side, pay attention here to the sacrum, the back of the body, the lower back muscles, the hip muscles, noticing how you feel here. Let your neck be long, tip of the nose is up towards the sky. Going a little farther, if you can, close your eyes though, because you've got the blanket behind your heart. So you're actually manipulating the middle spine. Make sure that any sensations of stretch are appropriate here. And then press your belly button towards your spine. Try to push the top edge of your pelvis towards the ground. So you're activating the core muscles, supporting the low back. And bring yourself back to center. A little wider with the legs, so they're off the mat maybe, and bringing yourself into this windshield wiper action in the lower body with the stabilization of the rib cage. Go slow here and close your eyes and feel this. Legs are going side to side.
If you'd like to add the cervical spine, the head can go the opposite direction of the knees. Go slowly, feeling what's appropriate for you. So adding rotation into the hip joint and into the cervical spine, keeping the thoracic and lumbar spine pretty stable. Push your belly button towards your spine, activate your core, and just feel whatever stretch comes into your body here. This helps to prepare the back for twisting and back bending, which helps to stimulate your spine bones to get stronger. And then bring yourself back to center. Walk your feet closer together. Walk your feet closer to your body. Knees are bent. And then bring yourself onto your side, all the way off the prop. So push the prop off to the side. You come on the side and let your spine relax here. Then from here, you're going to take your hand. You're going to push your hand onto the ground and bring yourself up. So there's a couple of seated postures in the practice. I'd like to begin there. So we use weight bearing to stretch our body. Take your blanket, bring your blanket onto the mat. Get our body a little warm before we start rotating the trunk. So bring yourself forward onto all fours. Hands are pretty wide. Legs are pretty wide. Push yourself side to side to start warming up the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, the posterior hip. So you get a little bit of movement into your pelvis. And then bring yourself back to neutral. You're going to bring yourself forward and you're going to bring yourself back, forward and back. And then bring yourself back to center. Walk your hands in. Take your block. Let's do a little bit more rotation. Take your hand on the block. Take your hand behind your head. So your block is pretty far forward, so you have a lot of length in your torso, but not too far forward that you don't have that stabilizing aspect of the spine, of the arm and the spine, the shoulder girdle. Take your hand behind your head. Exhale. And then inhale, rotate, open. Exhale back. Keep your pelvis where it is. Actually, walk your knees so your knees are right underneath your pelvis. Only go to where it feels appropriate as you bring in the stretch on the inhale. Come open, stay open. Bring your hand so that the back of the hand comes onto your sacrum. Push your heart towards the ground, lengthen your spine, and try to open up a little more. Belly button towards your spine to protect your lumbar spine. Rotation, trunk rotation. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out. We're going to come to the other side. Hand on the block. Hand behind your head. Exhale. And then inhale to open. Close your eyes. Feel your torso as you bring this rotation. Really let your elbow lift up a lot so your shoulder blade goes onto your spine to help you here. And notice where you feel the stretch in your torso. One more, come open. Stay here. Take your hand, bring the back of the hand onto the sacrum and try to lengthen your spine, push your heart down, open your body. Push your belly button towards your spine and push your belly button towards your hand to really protect your lumbar spine. Take one more breath and then bring yourself out. Take your block off to the side. Come up for a second. Flip your toes under if you can. Sit on your heels if you can, or be a little higher than this.
Take your wrists, roll your wrists around in one direction and then in the other. And then open and close your hands, warming up your hands and your wrists. Let's come onto all fours, warming up the spine through extension and flexion, flexing the lower lumbar spine. So bring your awareness to your tailbone and start to move your tailbone up and down the back wall. Keep your head forward, looking forward. So tailbone is drawing a line up and down the back wall, warming up glutes, warming up low back muscles, warming up that lower lumbar spine. Head is lifted and active. Bring yourself back to a neutral. Let your tailbone go up the back wall. Let your belly go towards the floor. Push the lower ribs towards the floor. Push the heart towards the floor. Open up your throat. Stretch the front of your body. Stretch open the front of your spine. Breathe down to your belly. This is called extension, spinal extension, a back bend. Try to bend the middle of the spine where the ribs are. So push the heart down. Take an inhale. As you exhale, tailbone goes down the back wall, flattening out the low back, adding a little flexion curve. Stop at the lower ribs. Bring yourself to a neutral. Tip of the nose points down towards the ground. That's your exhale. Inhale, tailbone up the back wall, belly button towards the ground, low ribs towards the ground, heart towards the ground, throat lengthens, chin lifts up into extension. And then exhale, tailbone down the back wall, stopping at the low ribs. Let the head move so the tip of the nose points down. Inhale into extension. Exhale into lumbar flexion and neutral spine. One more. And then bring yourself back to center. Let's take the legs wide. Knees are on the mat. Toenails touch. Bring your lower belly to your top thighs. Hands are straight and wide. Bring your forehead onto the ground or onto a block. Stretch your spine here. Lengthen the spine. Take one more breath. Leading with your head, bring yourself up. Walk your hands back, bring yourself out. So a lot of torso warm up, a lot of rotational warm up, a lot of spine warm up, stretching the upper body. We're going to come into the twists, the seated twists. And when we're seated, we're going to start to warm up muscles of the hips with the weight bearing aspect of seated. So take your blanket and fold your blanket. Bring your blanket onto the top of your mat, and then you come to sit on the blanket. Reaching under, grab the flesh to move it back so you expose your pelvis. And let's go to the left side first. So take the block behind you on the left. Take the left leg, bend the left leg, straighten the right. Take your hands on your left leg, and you're going to get tall here. So to add safe rotation to the spine, you need to be lengthened. You cannot be rounded and rotate. This is where the negative comments about no rotation, if you have osteoporosis, you also need to be careful if you do have scoliosis and you have rounding in your spine, because you don't want to rotate over the front of your spine and put pressure in the front of the spine. So you need to be lengthened here. You need the front of your spine to be open in order to rotate safely and create spinal bone stimulation. So take your hands onto your left leg, get nice and tall. Take your hand on the block behind you. Push away to get nice and tall. You don't want to be leaning back here. You want to be growing right out of your pelvis. Hold on to that front leg with the right arm. Right elbow is active. Push down to get tall with your both feet. So the straight leg and the bent leg. Exhale. Then inhale, lower ribs, middle ribs, and upper ribs. Rotate into rotation that feels appropriate for you. Feel the appropriate tension. Lower your shoulders, slide the shoulder blades towards each other, and then press the shoulder blades forward to lift your heart, lengthen your heart. Push down, get tall. Take one more breath. And then slowly unwind, push the block over to the other side. Let's switch. One leg goes straight, the other leg is bent. You take your hands, you get tall, put your hand on the block, push down to get tall. Push your legs into the ground, spine is long, exhale. And then inhale, lower ribs, middle ribs, and upper ribs rotate. Lower the shoulders, slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Press the shoulder blades forward to lift your heart. Long neck, long spine. Pushing down into the floor, tall, lower shoulders, shoulder blades towards each other, lifting and opening the front of your spine. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out. Come into a rest position. If soles of the feet together is a rest position for you, do that. Or if legs straight and wide is a better rest position, try that. So the rotational postures are to create spinal bone stimulation. And then you want to be sure that you have the stacked joints and that you don't have any compression on the front of your vertebra when you do them. So we're going to come into the bent knee twist, which actually now brings more tension, rotational force into the side of the hips, where the muscles are going to pull on the bones here and create bone stimulation for the pelvis, for the femur bone, which is where that hip joint is. So in order to do this, take your block over to the left and take the blanket over to the blanket over to the right. Wait. Yes, blanket over to the right. So the blanket is over to the right, so then the right leg bends and the right heel comes underneath the left buttock. So you've got your left buttock on the right heel, and then you use the blanket on the right buttock to support. Then take your left leg over your right leg. So you have left leg over and you're sitting on the right heel on your left buttock, and the towel is supporting your right buttock. For those that cannot bend the right knee will be straight, left leg will go over, and you'll need to sit on the blanket with both buttocks. Take your hand on the block behind you. So the forward leg is the direction that we rotate over. So hold on to the left leg, push down with the block, get tall in your spine, exhale. As you inhale, it's lower ribs, middle, and upper. Bring that rotation into your thoracic spine. Once you're here, you lower your shoulders, slide the shoulder blades forward, and lift your heart, lengthen your torso. Feel that pressure on that left hip capsule and in the spine. Breathe down to your belly. Take one more breath. To come out, don't collapse your spine, just unwind the spine, bring yourself back to center. Block goes over to the right and we'll switch. So now the blanket comes onto the left buttock. The left leg bends and left heel is underneath the right. So get your right buttock on your left heel and then fill in the space with the blanket to even that out. Take your right leg across. So you bring yourself into this position, lower body, and this will give you some tension in that hip, the right hip. Take your hand on the ground or on the block, whatever. It depends really on the length of your arms. For some, it's better to be on the ground. For some, on the block. Take a hold of the right leg. Right foot is on the ground. Exhale. As you inhale, lower ribs, middle and upper rotate. Lower your shoulders, slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Lift your heart. Long spine, open front spine, long neck. Active the whole time you're in the posture. Take one more breath. When you come out slowly, come out with a lengthened spine, bring yourself all the way out. Then take your block off to the side, unbind your legs, sit on your blanket. Take your legs wide and bring the block in between your thighs to push down to keep your spine nice and long. For those that are not feeling a significant stretch, you could add a little bit hip flexion with a straight spine to come forward, getting a little deeper work in the muscles if you need that. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself up, come out. Bring your blanket onto the mat. Bring it all the way up to the top part of the mat. Stretch the legs so when we come up to standing position, we'll have nice limber legs. Bring yourself down onto your mat. Draw your knees into your chest, rocking side to side. And then warming up the legs. So let one leg go up at a time, warming up the hamstrings. Start to lead with your heel. So you're in the back of the legs, bending the knees and unbending. So the next movement we're going to do is to stretch the hamstring muscles, which start at your pelvic bone, go down the back of your legs, and then attach underneath the knee joint to the lower leg bones. These muscles here, we're going to use them to pull on the pelvis to create stimulation of bone building. So this is a pulling action for bone remodeling. Take your legs onto the ground. Go ahead and get your strap and bring your strap onto the left leg. So the key here is lengthening the hamstring muscle, which starts on the pelvis and attaches behind the knee. Right here, this muscle group, trying to pull on the bones that it's attached to. Take your strap, wrap your hand around, draw the leg down
So when you pull down, you should feel a pretty strong connection of the left buttock into the ground. And then firm up the left thigh. So activate that left thigh. Push the left leg away and then guide the leg towards the wall behind you. Don't let your pelvis tilt. Don't let your low back press into the ground. Feel the connection in the center of the left buttock as you draw the leg towards the wall behind you and push the leg away from you. Pushing away and pulling back. Feel that sensation behind the thigh, the left thigh. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and release. Take the strap in the left hand. Slide your hand down the strap. Now we're going to lengthen the adductors attached to the inner knee and to the inner pelvis. Pulling on the pelvic bone here. Keep your leg elevated the whole time as you go out to the side. If it goes down towards the feet, then you need to stop there because that's the range of motion for you, and put a block to support the weight of your leg if you need. If you're able to go a little farther, if you could keep the leg pretty high, you could go a little farther, close towards the ground. And the goal is not to get to the ground or to get towards the ground. It's moving towards the ground. It's really lengthening this muscle in the inner thigh. So don't compromise safety and function to think you have to get to the ground. It's not about that. Push into the arch part of the strap. Push the foot away from you. Leg up towards the wall behind you. Take one more breath. And then bring that leg back up to center. Let's switch, bringing the right foot into the strap, stretching the hamstring muscle here. Keep your pelvis in a neutral. Don't let the pelvis tilt back. Take your hands, wrap your hands around the strap. Pull down so that the leg roots deep into the socket. You feel that connection of the buttock into the ground. Firm up the leg muscle, push it away, and now guide the leg towards the wall behind you. Create as much tension in the back of the right thigh as you can, and hopefully really feeling a strong pull right where the leg attaches to your body. So right at the beginning of your hamstring muscles. Deep breaths. Push the leg away, very active, and pull back. Keep pushing that right buttock towards the ground. Push the leg away, pull back, create as much sensation as possible. Take one more breath. And then come out of that tension, release the tension. Let's go into the inner thigh. Set yourself up so you have space to let your leg lengthen to the side. Inhale into this. Keep your leg really high the whole time until it goes where it needs to go to get the most stretch in the inner thigh muscle. Leg towards the wall behind you. Push into the strap. Take one more breath. Bringing your leg back up to center. Bring yourself back to center. Take the strap off, either knees to chest or fully stretch your body. You decide what is the best place for you to relax between movements. And then bend your knees. We're going to come onto our bellies and do the back bend called Locust. We just stretch the back of our legs. Now we're going to contract coming into Locust, which is a back bending posture. We're going to try to push the vertebra into itself to create stimulation, bringing that back bend into the body. So you're on your belly, and then you want to rock back and forth from hip bone to hip bone. Feel where the pubic bone is. If you push the pubic bone down into the ground, that'll help to activate the support of the low back muscles to do that. Legs come straight off your body. Let your spine be long, so lift your upper body away from the ground and then place the forehead onto the ground. Hands are alongside your body. Let's exhale. Push the pubic bone into the ground and lift your legs away from the ground. Noticing what you feel in the low back here. Forehead touches. And then inhale, reach your head away from you as you bring your upper body off the floor as well. So lower body is off, upper body is off, fingertips are reaching away from you. Reach long with your fingers, long with your arms, and reach up towards the sky. Really push your pubic bone into the ground to protect the low back. Try to push the heart forward, slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Try to bend the upper spine as much as you can, pressing it into itself against gravity. Take one more breath. And then when you come down, fold your hands one on top of the other. Take your legs a little wide. Lengthen your spine. Let your forehead rest on the back of the hands. Bend the legs and let your feet flop side to side. Let your legs go straight. Breathe down to your belly to take away tension from the low back. One more breath. And then take your hand up. Bring yourself onto your side. Rest here. Take your hand onto the ground and push yourself up to seated. Bring your strap off to the side. Blanket and block, you're going to need to get up with the blanket and the block we're going to use for the standing practice. So bring your knees onto your blanket, block up at its highest level, and then bring yourself up. Let your blood calibrate here. A couple of breaths here. And then from here, bring a foot forward,
Flip the back toes under, take your hand on top of your thighs, push yourself forward and up and away from the ground and come all the way up. Clear your space, move the blanket off to the side. Get a chair if balance is an issue for you, or if you prefer to do the standing practice with a chair or be near a wall, so you decide. We're going to come into mountain to stack our joints to do the standing postures. So stacking your joints here, bring your awareness to your feet. Feel evenly distributed with your weight. Toes, heels, edges of your feet feel really even here in your feet. And then make sure that you have your toes not too far apart. So be in a aligned position here. From here, we're going to come into tree. So bring yourself onto one foot, bend your knee, toe to the side, and bring your foot up in between your ankle and your knee. You decide what you want to do with your hands. You can leave them down, you can bring them up, wherever, any variation of tree that feels appropriate for you. Find a point or a gaze or something to focus on so you could find balance in this balanced posture. Take one more breath. Come out slowly with balance, finding your mountain. Push down, get tall. And from here, push your body weight onto the other foot. Bend your knee to the side and bring yourself up on this side. Finding balance in tree. Hands wherever it feels appropriate. And then find your gaze to help with balance. The eyes play a critical role in balance. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out, back to mountain, and then release. Let's come into the warrior two position. Take your feet wide. Bring your toe up and away, back heel away. Put a slight bend in the front knee. When you load into this, you want your body to go straight down and not to go forward. So we're bending the front hip, front knee, putting a lot of force on that front leg to strengthen the bone, strengthen the muscles. Take your hand on the back leg, long spine, lengthen front spine, exhale. As you inhale, push away from the back leg, slide the hand down the back leg, bring the front arm up, and then bring the other arm up into warrior two. From here, refine this posture. Push your feet into the floor, feel like you're ripping the floor apart. Tailbone pointing down towards the ground, spine is long, front of the spine is elevated, shoulders are away from the ears, long neck. Reach long with your hands and reach back with your hands. Really strong arms. This is a posture that actually helps support posture by strengthening the upper body. Bending that front knee as deeply as you can, create more stimulation in that front leg. Push that front heel into the ground, back heel into the ground. Mouth is closed, breathe deep. Take one more breath. And then you're going to unbend, bring yourself out. Toes are forward. Let's go to the other side. Toes away, heels away. Slight bend in the front leg, hand on the back leg. Exhale. And then as you inhale, lowering down, the arm goes down the back thigh. You bend the front knee as deeply as you can. Once you come as low as you're going to come, break up your arms, long neck, shoulder blades towards each other, arms are back. Push the feet into the floor, feel like you're ripping the floor apart. And that'll give freedom in the pelvis to point the tailbone down. Reach long, wide, bending deep. Deep breaths. Take one more breath here. And then unbend, bring yourself out of that warrior two. Bring your feet back together, find the stacked joint alignment position of Tadasana Mountain. Feet equal pressure, legs growing out of the ankles, the knees, the hips, stacked joints, the spine, lengthen your spine. And we'll come into side angle. I like to use a block for this, to go down a little deeper, to push away from, to get a little rotational force. The side angle gives a little bit more force now for the lower lumbar and still focuses on strengthening the pelvis, the leg bone, the leg muscles, and the hip joint. Take your feet really wide here. Toes are away, heels away, slight bend in the front leg, pound down the back leg, exhale. As you inhale, load into that front leg, both arms up. Reach long with the front arm and then bend at the hip joint to bring your arm onto your thigh or onto the block. Go deeper in that front leg if you can. Push your feet into the floor. Lengthen your legs as far apart from each other and then the hands as far apart from each other. Using that front arm on the thigh or the block or the inner leg to rotate your heart up towards the sky. Bringing those lower ribs and lower armpit forward and up. Take one more breath. Push your legs into the ground, long torso. Bring yourself back up into the warrior two. Unbend the leg. We're going to go to the other side. So create as much stimulation as you can while you're in the posture. Your body, you know your body, your limitations, what you should and shouldn't do. Get really accustomed to knowing that. So that you demand as much as you should every single time you come to the practice. And not anymore, only what you should on that day. Toes are away, heel is away. Hand down the back leg, exhale. Inhale to come into the warrior two. Arms up from here, reaching long and bending at the hip to come down onto the thigh or onto the block. Lowering down into your thighs, that front thigh bone a lot. Push your feet into the floor, the back foot too. And then as long as you could be from your arms, long spine, and then rotate the lower ribs and the shoulder area up towards the sky. Take one more breath. Bring yourself back up to your warrior two and all the way out, back to Tadasana. Find alignment. Moving into triangle, block or a chair. So you decide, block can go behind you, or the chair could be there if, depending on what flexibility you have in your legs. From mountain, we come into the wide stance. From the wide stance, you take the toes forward, heel away. Keep the front leg straight, putting a lot of force in that front leg, in that hip capsule, in the pelvis. Take your shoulders forward, back, up and down. Exhale. Inhale to let your arms rise, and then bending that front hip, and then bring yourself down onto the block or the chair. The bend is at the hip joint. You'll feel a strong stretch at the hamstring pulling on the back of the leg. Push your feet into the floor, lengthen your spine, lengthen your torso. Long spine, and then try to rotate your body up towards the sky, getting those lower ribs up, the armpit up. So you have a long trunk, long spine, and then you add a little rotation. Take one more breath. Keep your feet pressing into the ground, long torso, long spine. Bring yourself back up. Bring yourself back. We're going to come to the other side. So move your chair if you're using a chair, block if you're using the block. Come to the other side. Coming from a mountain position into the posture. Coming from alignment into proper alignment. Legs are wide, toes are away, heel is away. Shoulders are forward, up, back, and down. Reach down with your hands. Exhale. Inhale to bring your arms up. And from here, reach long, bending at that hip. Bring yourself down onto the block or the chair. Pushing away to get as much length in your body as possible. And then trying to rotate up towards the sky. Long torso. The bend is at the hip. And then some rotation. Take one more breath. Push your feet into the floor. Let your core muscles bring you back up. Bring your legs back to center. Find Tadasana. So we're going to move into the twisted triangle. This is a challenging posture. You may want to have a chair. You may be using the block. The thing is, this is balance, flexibility, and strength. The wider your feet are apart in the stance, the easier it makes the balance part. The closer together they are, the more challenging. So you choose what's appropriate for you. Bringing a foot forward and a foot back. Foot forward, foot back, about 2.5 feet distance. And then you bend at your hip joint, lengthen to come forward, diagonally rotating over to hold on to the chair or the block. Hand on the waist. Lengthen your spine, add that rotation. Feel that front hip, the pressure in the front hip. Push both feet into the floor, starting that rotation down on the ground. You could bring your arm to the side, or you could leave it on your waist, or put the back of the hand on the sacrum to really open up that shoulder. Push your feet into the floor, get long in your torso, long in the spine. Front spine is lengthened, not pushing into itself. That's what's really important. Take one more breath. Now to take the tension out, you bend the front leg, you bring yourself up. We're going to come to the other side. So if you have a chair, move the chair or the block. Preparing on this side for the twisted triangle, you bring the leg forward that you're going to rotate over, foot back. Push your feet into the floor. You're going to bend at the hip joint. Chest is lifted and open. Bending into this, and then take your hand diagonally across either onto the chair or the block, pushing away from the chair or the block to get more rotation forward. arm is either out to the side, on the waist, or in the back of the sacrum. Push away from the chair or the block to have a long spine, especially the front of your spine, and then rotate. Legs are straight. Take one more breath. And then bending the front knee to bring the tension out. Bring yourself back. Shake your limbs. We'll come down onto the floor for the last few postures. Get your blanket. Keep your block. Bring your block off to the side. Coming down, loading into your joints safely and slowly. Create strength in those joints forever. From here, we're going to come down into the ground. Let your legs and your arms go in the air. Bring them down. Sort of come into bridge with the block, turning on that whole center core, stabilizing muscle group up the center of the body, bringing the block between the knees, walking the feet closer to the body. Take your blanket, move your blanket away from you. Press your arms into the ground, lift your ribs up, slide your shoulder blades towards the spine, and keep your arms bent. Walk your feet so that they're block distance, squeezing the block, tilting the pelvis backwards. Inhale. As you exhale, squeeze your tushy, squeeze your block, push your feet into the floor, and try to unbend your hip joint by squeezing your tushy. Bending the lower spine, then bring the weight into the upper. Press the upper arm bones into the ground to push the ribs away as much as possible and to add as much of a back bend as you can to your spine. Deep breaths here. Stretch the front of your spine, stretch the front of the body, and activate the back. Really push away from the ground with your arms to activate the upper back muscles. Squeeze the buttocks and push away from the floor with your feet. Really strong back here. Take one more breath. When you come down slowly. So first take the tension out of the upper body as you let the vertebra come down. When you get towards the lower ribs, lift your heels off, squeeze your block. Tilt your pelvis backwards so you try to place the lower back on the ground, stretching the low back muscles, stretching the spine. Placing your buttocks onto the ground. Bring the blanket back underneath your head. Take the block off to the side. And then lengthen your body. Rest here, arms overhead, unless your shoulders won't let you. You can put the arms out to the side. Close your mouth, let your body relax, and let your awareness go up and down your body to notice today's practice in your body. And let's from here come into the last posture of the day, Savasana. Take your legs wide, arms wide. Keep your mouth closed and focus on your breath.
Gobinde mukande udare apare hariyam kariyam nimame akame 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 Gobinde mukande udare apare hariyam kariyam nimame akame
Gently begin to deepen your breath. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Rolling your ankles and your wrists. And then bending your knees. Draw the knees into the chest. Rocking side to side. And from here onto your side. Hand is on the ground, pushing yourself up and away. Keep your eyes closed. Bring your hands to your heart, sit nice and tall. Let your awareness go up and down your body, noticing. We want to make sure that every time we come to the practice, we appropriately demand a lot from our muscles and our bones, and that it's exactly what it needs for that day. So noticing today, was that appropriate for you? Let's close with sound, a humming sound. Exhale. Inhale. Bowing in gratitude for the opportunity, for showing up for yourself, for all that we just did to stimulate our muscles, our bones, our joints, our posture, our alignment, strengthen our balance. We say thank you. And then open your eyes. So this practice included the 12 postures that were used in the first series. Different times brought them in. They are for focusing on the spine, on the pelvis, on the hips, strengthening balance, increasing range of motion, flexibility, hydration, joint secretion. So do them as often as you can, really for the rest of our lives. The more we demand from our bones and our muscles and our body, the more it will show up for us. So really making sure we stay in the asking for a lot and not giving in to thinking we're getting older, we're aging, we shouldn't, we couldn't. And then being in the moment so you know what is appropriate. So asking as much as you can safely is the goal. All right. How are you feeling? Where are we at? Okay. I've done quite a bit today so far. Walked a few miles. Did my hip exercises for my hip joint. So for those of you that are here live, how are you feeling? I feel like it was a strong class. It was for me, but it's really whatever you give it. So any class you do could be your pace. So it could be strong or not strong or whatever. Okay, good. Great. That's what we want, Stevie. Strong, strong, strong. All right. Okay, good. I feel like it's strong. And I'm like, wait, is that strong? I'm holding longer than 30 seconds. So I know that that's a part of it too. All right. Thanks for joining me live. If you're not live, good job for you coming back and doing this. And I will see you whenever I see you. All right. Have a great day.